Logan pressed his forehead against the cold window of the bus as it crawled through Seoul's morning traffic, watching his reflection blur against the gray cityscape. 15 years old and invisible. That's how he'd describe himself if anyone bothered to ask, which they never did. The Yongsan International Academy uniform felt heavier today, the navy blazer somehow emphasizing how thin he was, how his shoulders didn't fill the fabric the way they did on guys like Marcus Chen or Blake Park. His phone buzzed with the class. Group chat? Messages flooding in about tonight's basketball game, plans he wasn't included in. Inside jokes he'd never understand. Logan didn't bother reading past the first few lines anymore. The bus lurched to a stop outside the academy's iron gates, and Logan shuffled out with the morning crowd, keeping his head down as students streamed past in clusters of laughter and energy. He'd perfected the art of invisibility over 3 years here, walk at a specific pace, never make eye contact, stay near walls, blend into crowds. It usually worked. Usually. But today, as he approached his locker on the second floor, he noticed Marcus and his friends gathered nearby, their voices pitched just loud enough to carry. "Did you see Logan's essay score?" Marcus said, leaning against the lockers with that effortless confidence that seemed to radiate from every popular kid. Teacher Kim actually read it out loud as an example of what not to do. Yadik. Group erupted in laughter, and Logan felt his face burn as he fumbled with his combination lock. His essay hadn't been that bad. He'd spent hours on it, trying to analyze the modernization themes in Korean literature. But apparently his interpretation had been fundamentally misguided, according to the teacher's red-inked comments. "Hey, Logan," Blake called out, his American name matching his half-Korean, half-American heritage that somehow made him even more popular. "You coming to tryouts today? Oh, wait, I forgot. You can't even do 10 push-ups." More laughter. Logan's fingers trembled as he finally got his locker open, pretending to search for something, anything, to avoid responding. The humiliation wrapped around him like a second skin, familiar and suffocating. The morning dragged through calculus and Korean history, Logan sitting in his usual spot by the window in the back corner, where teachers rarely called on him. During lunch, he found his regular table in the cafeteria, the one near the kitchen doors that nobody wanted because of the noise and heat. He ate his kimbap quickly, mechanically, watching the social hierarchies play out across the crowded room. The athletes at their table, the student council in their corner, the arts kids by the windows, the international students clustering together. And then there was Logan, alone with his lunch and his phone, scrolling through nothing. That afternoon, in physical education class, Coach Lee divided them into teams for basketball. Logan was picked last, as always, and spent most of the game standing near half-court, occasionally jogging back and forth to maintain the illusion of participation. At one point, the ball bounced toward him and he actually caught it. A small miracle. But before he could even think about what to do next, Marcus had stolen it away. "Nice catch, Butterfingers," Marcus laughed, driving toward the basket for an easy layup. The gymnasium's fluorescent lights seemed too bright, the squeaking shoes too loud. The whole experience a reminder of every physical inadequacy Logan possessed. After school, while other students rushed to clubs or hung out on the rooftop terrace, or headed to PC Bang's in Itaewon, Logan took the subway 3 stops north to his family's apartment in Mapo. His mother was already at her night shift at the hospital, his father still at the construction site in Gangnam. Logan microwaved leftover japchae and sat at the kitchen table with his homework. The apartment silent, except for the occasional rumble of trains passing underground. His phone stayed dark. No messages, no missed calls, no notifications that mattered. He wondered sometimes what it would feel like to be someone people wanted to talk to have plans that weren't just homework and sleep and the same routine tomorrow. Around 8 in the evening, Logan's phone finally buzzed with a message from his mother. "Groceries needed. List on counter. Sorry, honey." He sighed, pocketing the handwritten note and heading back out into Seoul's neon-lit streets. The convenience store was only 2 blocks away, but his mother had specified certain items from the traditional market in Seokon, a neighborhood of narrow alleys and old hammocks nestled against the northern mountains. Logan didn't mind the walk. It was better than sitting alone in the apartment. The market was closing down for the night, elderly vendors packing up their goods under strings of yellow light bulbs. Logan bought the items quickly: dried anchovies, sesame oil, fresh perilla, leaves, and was cutting through the back alleys toward the subway when he noticed the street had changed. Not dramatically, but subtly. The sounds had muffled, as if cotton had been stuffed in his ears. The shadows stretched longer than they should, pooling in corners like liquid. Logan stopped, his plastic bags rustling in the suddenly still air. That's when he saw the crack. It hung in the alley like a tear in reality itself, vertical and shimmering with colors that hurt to look at directly. Purples that weren't quite purple, blacks that seemed to absorb light. Logan stepped backward, his heart hammering, but his foot caught on something and he stumbled. The bags dropped, groceries scattering across the pavement as he fell forward, his hand shooting out instinctively. His palm pressed against the cracks, surface, and everything exploded into sensation. Logan gasped as his vision went white, then fractured into 1,000 images. He saw vast crystalline landscapes, forests made of something that wasn't quite trees, oceans that flowed upward, creatures that defied description hunting and being hunted. Information flooded his mind. Terms like genetic evolution, dimensional, hunting grounds, gene absorption, advancement levels. The crack pulsed against his hand, and Logan felt something transfer into him, through his skin, into his bloodstream, settling into every cell of his body like seeds planted in fertile soil. When his vision cleared, Logan was on his knees in the alley, his hand still extended toward where the crack had been. It was gone now, sealed shut, leaving only normal shadows and normal sounds. But Logan wasn't normal anymore. He could feel it immediately, a strange new awareness tingling beneath. His skin, an interface that existed somewhere between his mind and body. When he focused, semi-transparent text appeared in his vision, glowing with soft blue light. Gene evolution system activated. Host: Logan Kim current level. Unranked genetic potential, 0-100 dimensional access. Enabled status. Unevolved tutorial. Active Logan scrambled to his feet, his breath coming in short gasps. He looked at his hands. They looked the same. But when he concentrated, he could see faint patterns beneath the skin, like circuitry made of light. The interface in his vision shifted, offering new information. Primary world, Earth, current location. Evolution world, accessible tutorial entries remaining. 3/3 warning. First entry must be completed within 48 hours. Logan gathered his scattered groceries with shaking hands, his mind racing. Evolution world, genetic potential, tutorial mode. What had he just touched? The walk home was a blur, Logan's awareness, split between the familiar soul streets and the strange interface that now overlaid his vision. By the time he reached his apartment, he'd discovered he could minimize and expand different menus with thought alone, accessing information about something called gene absorption and creature evolution paths. That night, Logan lay in bed, unable to sleep, staring at the ceiling while the interface pulsed gently in the corner of his vision. According to the information available, the evolution world was a separate dimensional space where creatures existed that had never evolved on Earth. By hunting these creatures and absorbing their genetic material, Logan could evolve his own body, gaining abilities and transformations based on what genes he collected. It sounded insane, like something from a manhwa or a video game. But the interface was real, responding to his thoughts, showing him entry protocols and basic survival information. The next day at school, Logan moved through his classes in a daze. Everything felt different now, though nothing had actually changed. Marcus still made jokes at his expense during homeroom. Blake still ignored him in the hallways. The cafeteria still relegated him to his corner table. But Logan carried a secret, now something that burned in his chest like a pilot light, waiting to ignite. During chemistry lab, he found himself staring at his lab partner's arm, and suddenly the interface activated unbidden, analyzing the student's genetic structure, displaying muscle density and bone composition data. Logan quickly looked away, disturbed by this invasive new sense. After school, Logan didn't head home. Instead, he took the subway to Bukhansan, the mountain park at Seoul's northern edge, where hiking trails wound through forests and granite peaks. He needed somewhere private, somewhere the dimensional entry wouldn't be witnessed. The interface had explained that entering the evolution world would create a small, spatial distortion. Nothing dramatic, but noticeable to anyone nearby. Logan climbed past the lower trails filled with after-work hikers and elderly exercise groups, pushing higher until he found a small clearing off the main path, surrounded by pine trees and ancient rocks. His heart pounded as he opened the interface's entry menu. The instructions were simple: focus his intention, accept the system's terms, allow the dimensional transfer. Logan took a deep breath of Seoul's mountain air, smelling pine and earth, and distant city pollution, then mentally selected yes. The world twisted. Logan's stomach dropped as reality folded around him, colors inverting and sounds stretching. For a horrible moment he felt like he was being pulled through a tube too, small for his body, every cell compressing and then expanding. Then his feet hit solid ground and the sensation stopped. Logan opened his eyes and forgot how to breathe. He stood in a forest, but not like any forest on Earth. The trees were massive, their trunks wider than buses, their bark pulsing with bioluminescent veins of blue and green. The sky above was wrong, too purple, with 3 moons visible despite what seemed to be daylight. The air tasted sweet and electric, charged with energy that made Logan's skin prickle. Strange sounds echoed through the forest, calls that were part bird, part something else entirely. The interface updated in his vision. Welcome to Evolution World, Tutorial Mode. Current zone, Beginner Forest, Safe Zone. Available creatures, Common Rank Entities. Objective, Hunt and absorb genetic material to evolve. Tutorial Assistance, Full. Guidance enabled. Note: tutorial mechanics differ from standard mode. Logan's hands trembled as he looked around the clearing where he'd materialized. A small stream burbled nearby, its water glowing faintly. Massive ferns created walls of green, and in the distance he could hear something moving, something large. The interface provided a basic map in the corner of his vision, showing his location as a blue dot in a vast, unexplored territory. Nearby red dots indicated creatures, some moving, some stationary. He took his first cautious steps forward, following the stream downstream. The interface had mentioned that beginner areas usually contained relatively safe creatures, though safe was clearly relative. Logan had never hunted anything in his life. He'd never even been camping without his parents. But something about this place called to him on an instinctive level, as if his newly awakened genetic potential recognized this as its natural environment. A rustling in the ferns made Logan freeze. His interface immediately highlighted the location, displaying text: Common Horned Rabbit, Level 1. Basic genetic material available. Logan watched as a creature emerged, about the size of a large dog, with silver fur and 2 crystalline horns, sprouting from its head. It looked almost cute until it opened its mouth, revealing 3 rows of needle-sharp teeth. The rabbit creature sniffed the air, its nose twitching, then its eyes locked onto Logan. For a moment they stared at each other, human teenager and alien creature. Then the rabbit charged, faster than Logan expected, its horns aimed at his stomach. Logan yelped and dove sideways, hitting the ground hard, rolling behind a tree trunk. The creature's horns slammed into the bark with a crack like a gunshot, embedding deep. Logan's heart hammered as the creature struggled to free itself, yanking its head back and forth. The interface pulsed urgently. Vulnerable. Strike now to maximize gene absorption. Logan looked around desperately and grabbed a fallen branch, thick as his arm and covered in moss. He didn't think, just acted, swinging the branch with all his strength at the creature's exposed side. The impact jarred his arms, but the rabbit went down, squealing. Logan hit it again, and again, until it stopped moving, until the strange silver blood stopped pooling on the purple grass. Logan dropped the branch and staggered back, breathing hard, his hands shaking. He'd never killed anything before. Never. even hurt an animal intentionally. But the interface was already displaying new information. Genetic material detected. Absorb? Yes, no. Tutorial mode, automatic absorption enabled. Logan stared at the creature's body, at his trembling hands, then mentally selected yes. The rabbit's corpse began to glow, dissolving into streams of light that flowed toward Logan like living water. He gasped as the light touched his skin and sank in, spreading warmth through his body. The sensation was indescribable, like drinking lightning, like every cell in his body was waking up for the first time. Information flooded his mind. Enhanced leg muscle structure, improved reaction speed, reinforced skeletal density. The interface updated. Genetic potential. 5/100 common horned rabbit genes absorbed minor enhancement. Leg strength. Pubs 3%. Minor enhancement. Reaction time. Pubs 2%. Tutorial. Note. Standard mode requires cooking for gene extraction. Logan looked at his legs and could actually see the subtle difference. Muscles slightly more defined beneath his uniform pants. He jumped experimentally and went 1/2 meter higher than he'd ever managed before, landing with perfect balance. A laugh escaped his throat, equal parts shock and exhilaration. This was real. This was actually real. For the next hour, Logan explored the beginner forest, learning its rhythms, hunting more of the common creatures. He found rabbit creatures nesting in hollow trees, bird-like entities with razor feathers, small reptilian things that camouflaged against rocks. Each kill became easier as his genetic enhancements accumulated, his body growing stronger, faster, more coordinated. The interface guided him constantly, highlighting weak points, suggesting tactics, automatically absorbing genetic material from each kill in bursts of light. By the time the interface warned him that his entry time was ending, Logan had absorbed genes from 7 different creatures, and his genetic potential had reached 42 out of 100. The return to Earth was just as disorienting as the entry. Logan materialized back in the Bukhansan clearing, stumbling as his body readjusted to normal gravity and atmosphere. But he wasn't the same person who'd left. His school uniform was torn and stained with silver blood that was already evaporating into nothing. His muscles felt dense and powerful, his senses sharper. When he looked at the Seoul cityscape visible through the trees, he could see details that should have been too distant. Individual windows in buildings kilometers away, birds flying between, skyscrapers, the patterns of traffic on the highways. The interface pulsed with a notification. Tutorial entries. Remaining. 2 to 3 Logan made his way down the mountain as dusk settled over the city, his mind racing with possibilities. The genetic enhancements felt permanent, integrated into his body at a fundamental level. He was stronger, faster, more coordinated than he'd been this morning. And according to the interface, this was just the beginning. The common rank genes were the weakest available. There were rare creatures, elite creatures, legendary entities, each offering more powerful genetic material. The next morning at Yongsan International Academy, Logan walked through the gates with his head up for the first time in months. He wasn't invisible anymore, not to himself at least. During morning PE class, when Coach Lee had them run laps, Logan found himself pulling ahead of the pack effortlessly, his enhanced leg muscles making the exercise feel easy. Students noticed, whispers following him around the track. Marcus frowned, from his position in the middle of the pack, clearly confused about how Logan had suddenly gotten faster. In the locker room afterward, Blake approached with his usual entourage. Well, he said, leaning against the lockers. Logan's been working out. Did you finally get a gym membership? The group laughed, but it felt different now, less sharp. Logan met Blake's eyes and saw something flicker there. Uncertainty, maybe, or reassessment. Logan didn't respond, just grabbed his bag and walked past, feeling their stares on his back. During lunch, Logan sat at his usual corner table, but now he used the time to study the interface's information about genetic evolution paths. Apparently, once he reached 100 genetic potential, he could undergo his first transformation, choosing a specialization based on the genes he'd absorbed. The options were vast. predator paths, defender paths, speed paths, power paths, each requiring specific genetic material combinations. He had one tutorial entry remaining, and he wanted to maximize it before the system switched to whatever standard mode meant. That afternoon, Logan returned to the evolution world, this time entering from a quiet corner of the school's rooftop during a free period. The dimensional transfer was faster now, his body already adapting to the process. He materialized in a different part of the beginner forest, near a crystal cave system, the interface identified as containing slightly stronger creatures. The tutorial assistants continued to guide him, highlighting threats, identifying creatures before they attacked, automatically converting kills into genetic material. Logan spent 2 hours hunting with growing confidence, his enhanced body making the fights almost easy. The creatures here were slightly stronger than before, crystalline wolves, armored beetles the size of motorcycles, serpentine things that dropped from trees. But with each kill, Logan felt himself evolving, his genetic potential climbing steadily. By the time he'd cleared the cave system, he'd reached 73 out of 100 potential, his body humming with accumulated power. When he returned to Earth, solidifying back into reality on the empty rooftop, he found he wasn't alone. A girl stood near the doorway, her eyes wide behind wire-rimmed glasses. Emma Hayes, from his Korean literature class, quiet, smart, one of the few students who'd never actively participated in mocking him. She was staring at the space where Logan had just appeared, her phone hanging loose in her hand. "What was that?" Emma whispered, her voice barely audible over the city sounds drifting up from below. "You just appeared, out of nothing, and your clothes." She gestured at his uniform, which was torn and stained with the silver blood of alien creatures, though it was already starting to evaporate. Logan's mind raced. The interface hadn't mentioned witnesses, hadn't prepared him for this scenario in tutorial mode. He could deny it, make something up, but Emma had clearly seen the dimensional transfer. Her expression wasn't scared exactly, more shocked, curious, like someone who'd just discovered the world was bigger than they'd thought. "I need you to not tell anyone," Logan said carefully, his enhanced mind already calculating responses, exit strategies, consequences. "Please, it's complicated." Emma stared at him for a long moment, her dark eyes searching his face. Then, instead of responding, she held up her phone. On the screen was a news article, time-stamped from 20 minutes ago. The headline read, "Mass Hallucinations in Seoul. Hundreds report seeing dimensional rifts across city." Logan's blood went cold as he took the phone, scrolling through the article. Reports were flooding in from all over Seoul, people seeing cracks in reality. Some claiming to have touched them, others describing impossible visions. The phenomenon had started last night, around the same time Logan had first encountered his crack in Seocheon. Social media was exploding with videos, photos, theories ranging from mass hysteria to government experiments to alien invasion. "It's not just you, is it?" Emma said quietly, lowering her phone. "Whatever this is, it's happening to other people too." Logan's interface suddenly chimed with new information, and his heart sank as he read the notification. Phenomenon expansion detected, estimated new hosts. 10,000 plus, Seoul metropolitan area. Estimated new hosts, 50,000 plus, nationwide. Estimated new hosts, unknown global tutorial entries. Remaining 1-3, Logan, Emma pressed, stepping closer. "What's happening? What did you just come back from?" Before he could answer, his phone buzzed with messages. The class group chat was going crazy. Students sharing videos, some claiming to have seen the rifts themselves, others posting memes. Already. But buried in the noise was a message from a number he didn't recognize. "To anyone who can see this interface, you're not alone. Meeting tonight at Hangang Park, Uido section, 10 p.m. Come if you want answers." Logan showed Emma the message. Her eyes widened. "You have an interface, what does it say?" "That there are thousands of people like me now," Logan said slowly, the implications crashing over him. "People who can access another world. People who can evolve." The rooftop door banged open and Marcus stumbled out, his face pale, his hands trembling. He didn't even seem to notice Logan and Emma at first, just rushed to the railing and stared at his palms. Blue light flickered beneath his skin, faint circuitry patterns that Logan recognized immediately. "What the hell?" Marcus gasped, his usual confidence completely shattered. "What the hell is happening to me? I saw this crack in the bathroom and I touched it, and now there's voices in my head and—" He finally noticed Logan and Emma. His eyes narrowed, focusing on Logan's torn uniform, the fading silver stains. "You too?" Logan nodded slowly. The dynamic between them had shifted in an instant. Marcus wasn't the confident bully anymore, just another scared teenager facing something impossible. "Yeah, me too." "Do you know what this is?" Marcus demanded, the blue light pulsing brighter in his palms. "Your interface thing, does it explain?" "A little," Logan admitted. "There's another world. We can access it. We can hunt creatures there and evolve our bodies. But that's insane," Marcus interrupted, but his voice lacked conviction. The evidence was literally glowing in his hands. "That's actually insane." Emma's phone buzzed with an alert, and she gasped. "The news is saying the government just issued a statement. They're calling it a mass psychological event and telling people not to touch any visual anomalies they encounter. But look at the comments. Thousands of people saying they already touched them, that they have these interfaces now." Logan's mind raced. The world had changed overnight, and somehow he was ahead of the curve by a single day. He pulled up his interface again, checking his tutorial status, one entry remaining. After that, whatever advantages the tutorial provided would disappear, and he'd be on the same playing field as everyone else who'd just been activated. "I'm going to that meeting tonight," Logan said, making a decision. "Whoever sent that message knows more than we do. And if thousands of people can access this evolution world now, we need to understand what's really happening." "I'm coming with you," Emma said immediately. Marcus hesitated, his pride clearly warring with his fear and curiosity. Finally, he nodded. "Yeah, me too. I need answers." The rest of the school day was chaos. News spread through Yongsan Academy. Like wildfire, some students claiming to have interfaces, others accusing them of lying for attention, teachers trying to maintain order while clearly having no idea what was actually happening. By the time the final bell rang, the government had held an emergency press conference. Officials in suits standing before microphones and cameras, their faces grave. "We are investigating the reported phenomena," the Minister of Science and ICT said, his voice steady but his eyes betraying uncertainty. "Initial analysis suggests a form of mass suggestion, possibly triggered by coordinated social media campaigns. We urge citizens to remain calm and report any unusual experiences to the dedicated hotline." But Logan could read between the lines. The government had no idea what was happening, no way to stop it, no control over a situation that was spiraling beyond anyone's ability to manage. And somewhere out there, thousands of people were preparing to enter the evolution world for the first time, to hunt creatures they couldn't understand, to evolve in ways that would change humanity forever. That evening, Logan convinced his parents he was going to a study group, not entirely a lie, given what he hoped to learn. He met Emma and Marcus at Uedo subway station, and together they walked through the park along the Han River. The meeting location was a small pavilion near the water, and as they approached, Logan counted at least 30 people already there, ranging from middle schoolers to adults in business suits. All of them had the same look in their eyes, a mix of fear, excitement, and confusion. A woman in her mid-20s stood at the center of the pavilion, her posture confident, her eyes sharp. When she spoke, her voice carried clearly across the gathered crowd. "Thank you for coming. My name is Jade Park, and like all of you, I touched a rift yesterday. Unlike most of you, I work for a private research firm that's been tracking dimensional anomalies for the past 3 years. What's happening isn't new. It's just accelerating." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Logan leaned forward, his interface confirming that Jade also had an active system, her genetic potential reading as 38 out of 100. which meant she'd already entered the evolution world at least once. The rifts lead to what we're calling the evolution world, Jade continued. A separate dimension where creatures exist that can enhance human genetics through a process we don't fully understand yet. The interface you're seeing, the tutorial, mode, it's all real. And as of this morning, an estimated 200,000 people worldwide have been activated, with numbers growing exponentially. A man in a business suit raised his hand. Why is this happening? Who created this system? We don't know, Jade admitted. The rifts appeared 3 years ago, but were extremely rare, maybe a dozen worldwide. Something changed yesterday. The frequency increased by a factor of 10,000. As for who created the system, our best guess is that it's not human in origin. The technology, if you can even call it that, is beyond anything we understand. Marcus spoke up, his voice carrying an edge. What happens after the tutorial? My interface keeps mentioning standard mode. Jade's expression grew serious. That's why I called this meeting. The tutorial is generous. Automatic genetic absorption, full AI guidance, safe zones. Standard mode is different, harder. We've been monitoring early activators who finished their tutorials, and the reports are troubling. No more automatic absorption. You have to cook the creatures to extract genes. No more AI assistance beyond basic data display. No more guaranteed safe zones. And most critically, she paused, letting the tension build. You need portal essence to enter the evolution world after tutorial mode ends. Portal essence? Emma asked, her voice tight. A crystalline material that drops randomly from creatures you kill in the evolution world, Jade explained. Each entry after the tutorial costs 1 essence. No essence, no entry. Which means hunting becomes a resource management game. You need to kill enough to get essence for future entries while also maximizing genetic gains. Logan's interface chimed, and he pulled up his remaining tutorial entry count. 1 for 3. One more guaranteed entry with full assistance, then he'd be thrown into the deep end with everyone else. There's something else you need to know, Jade said, her voice dropping lower. The 2 worlds are separate. Creatures can't cross between dimensions. Only humans with activated systems can. But that doesn't mean Earth is safe. Because what do you think happens when 200,000 people suddenly gain superhuman abilities? When some of them start evolving into something beyond human? The social implications alone. A scream cut through the night air, coming from somewhere deeper in the park. The gathered group tensed, and Logan's enhanced senses immediately picked up signs of a fight. The thud of impacts, crashing sounds, someone yelling. His interface lit up with proximity alerts, but not for creatures, for other system users. It's already starting, Jade said grimly. Some people saw the tutorial mode abilities and immediately thought, power. Give humans superhuman strength, and what do you think happens? Some use it to help, others use it to take. Logan, Emma, and Marcus exchanged glances. The reality of their new world was crystallizing rapidly. This wasn't just about hunting creatures in another dimension. This was about humanity fracturing into evolved and unevolved, about power dynamics shifting, about society reorganizing around those who could access genetic enhancements and those who couldn't. I'll be organizing more meetings, Jade said, as people began to disperse, some running toward the sounds of fighting, others fleeing in the opposite direction. If you want to survive what's coming, you'll need allies, teams, resources, information. Find me on the coordination board. She held up her phone, showing a messaging app with a group called Soul Evolved Collective. Logan added himself to the group, his mind already planning. He had 1 tutorial entry left, and he needed to make it count. Reach 100 genetic potential, unlock his first transformation. Stockpile as much portal essence as he could before the tutorial ended. After that, he'd be competing with hundreds of thousands of others for limited dimensional access. Hunting creatures without AI assistance. Cooking meat from alien animals to extract genes while hoping he didn't poison himself. The walk back to... The subway was tense, the 3 of them jumping at shadows, hyper-aware that any of the people around them might have evolved abilities, might see them as competition or threats or resources. Seoul's neon lights reflected off the Han River, the city looking the same as it always had. But Logan knew that underneath the surface, everything had changed. "One more question," Marcus said as they waited for the train. "What happens when we run out of common creatures to hunt? What happens when the only way to keep evolving is to go deeper into the evolution world, fight stronger things? How far does this go?" Logan didn't have an answer. His interface didn't have an answer. But as the subway car rattled through Seoul's underground tunnels, he opened his system menu one more time and selected his final tutorial entry protocol. Tomorrow, before school, he would return to the evolution world. He would push as far as his tutorial advantages would take him. He would reach 100 genetic potential and undergo his first transformation. Because if Jade was right, if the world was fracturing into evolved and unevolved, into those who adapted and those who fell behind, Logan wasn't going to be left behind again. He'd spent 15 years being invisible, being powerless, being nothing. That version of himself was dead, dissolved like the creatures he'd hunted, their genetic material absorbed and transformed into something new. His phone buzzed, with a notification from the Seoul Evolved Collective Group. Someone had posted a video, footage from a convenience store security camera showing a person moving with impossible speed, their body briefly glowing with the same blue light that marked system users. The caption read, "Hongdae District. Evolution. User robbing store. Police can't catch him. New world, new rules." Emma saw it too, her expression troubled. "This is really happening, isn't it? Society's going to tear itself apart before we even understand what we're becoming." "Maybe," Logan admitted, watching Seoul flash past the subway windows. "Or maybe we'll find a way to make it work. But either way, I'm not sitting on the sidelines." By 3, train pulled into his station, and Logan stood, his genetically enhanced body moving with a grace he'd never possessed before. Marcus nodded to him, a gesture of tentative respect that would have been unthinkable 2 days ago. Emma smiled, her eyes reflecting that same mixture of fear and excitement that Logan felt burning in his chest. "Tomorrow," Logan said. "I finish the tutorial, then we figure out what comes next." He emerged from the subway into the Seoul night, the city lights painting shadows across his face, and Logan felt the weight of his final tutorial entry, waiting, ready to be used. Somewhere out there, in a dimension beyond human understanding, creatures were hunting and being hunted, evolving and devolving, and Logan was about to step back into that world one last time, with the training wheels still on. After that, the real test would begin. After that, he'd find out what it truly meant to evolve in a world where the only rule was adapt or die, and the cost of entry was measured in crystallized essence torn from alien flesh. After that, Logan Kim would discover whether the invisible boy from Yongsan Academy could transform into something strong enough to survive what was coming. The interface pulsed in his vision. Tutorial entries remaining. 1-2 Logan smiled grimly and headed home to prepare. Tomorrow, everything would change again. Tomorrow, the tutorial would end. And the day after that, the real evolution would begin. Logan woke at 4 a.m, his body no longer requiring the full 8 hours of sleep it used to need. The genetic enhancements had restructured something fundamental in his physiology. His cells recovered faster, required less downtime, operated with an efficiency that felt almost mechanical. He lay in the darkness of his small bedroom, listening to the sounds of his father's snoring through the thin walls of their Mapo apartment, and pulled up his interface with a thought. Tutorial. Entries remaining. 1-2 genetic potential, 73-100 time limit warning. Tutorial access expires in 47 hours. Notice. Only first 100,000 activations receive tutorial privileges. Logan's stomach tightened at that last notification. It had appeared overnight, added to his system without fanfare or explanation. Somewhere, in the world, a clock was counting down. And when it hit 0, anyone who hadn't completed their tutorial entries would be thrown into standard mode with whatever genetic potential they'd managed to accumulate. The Seoul Evolved Collective group chat had exploded with panic around 3 a.m. when people started seeing the timer. Arguments about fairness, desperate questions about how to maximize final tutorial runs. and increasingly disturbing reports of people attacking each other for information about optimal hunting strategies. He scrolled through the messages with growing unease. User ShadowFist82 had posted, "Guy in Gangnam tried to force me to tell him my hunting spots. Had to fight him off. He was strong, maybe 60 potential already. This is getting dangerous." Below that, Moonchild wrote, "My brother didn't make it back from his second tutorial entry. Interface says his vital signs stopped. He's just gone. Police won't even investigate because they don't know how." Logan closed the chat and sat up, his enhanced vision easily piercing the pre-dawn darkness. Across the room, his school uniform, hung on a chair, freshly washed by his mother before her night shift. She'd left a note on his desk that he'd found last night. "Proud of you for studying hard. Dad's job might end this month. Company closing Gangnam site. We'll figure it out. Love you." The note sat there like a weight in his chest. His father had worked construction for 15 years, steady income that kept them fed and housed in one of Seoul's most expensive cities. But construction was brutal work that had aged his father faster than it should have, left him with a bad back and knees that ached in cold weather. At 43, his father looked 55, and the thought of him scrambling for new work in a job market that was about to be completely disrupted by people with superhuman abilities made Logan's enhanced heart beat faster with something between anger and determination. He pulled on workout clothes and left the apartment quietly, taking the stairs down rather than risk the elevator's noise. Seoul was never truly asleep, but at 4 a.m. it came close. Delivery trucks making their rounds, a few salary workers stumbling home from all-night drinking sessions, the occasional taxi cruising for fares. Logan jogged through the empty streets toward Bukhansan, his body moving with a fluid grace that still surprised him. 2 days ago, this run would have left him winded. Now his enhanced cardiovascular system barely registered the exertion. The mountain park's entrance wouldn't officially open for another 2 hours, but Logan found a section of fence that was poorly maintained and slipped through. He needed privacy for what came next, needed space where no one would see the dimensional transfer or ask questions he couldn't answer. The trail was dark, lit only by occasional emergency lights, but Logan's enhanced vision rendered it in sharp detail. Every root, every rock, every rustle of small animals in the undergrowth. He climbed for 30 minutes, pushing past the lower observation points, moving into the deeper forest where hikers rarely ventured before dawn. Finally, he found a small clearing surrounded by dense pine trees, a natural amphitheater of stone and moss that felt removed from the city sprawling below. Logan checked his phone. 4:47 in the morning. He had time before his parents woke, time before school, time to make this final tutorial entry count. His interface responded to his intention, pulling up the entry protocol. But this time, new information appeared alongside it. Tutorial completion. Notice: upon completion of final tutorial entry, you will be transferred to Standard Evolution World Random Shelter Assignment based on South Korea region. Tutorial genetic potential will be preserved as starting point portal essence required. For future entries, 1 essence per entry, unlimited duration per visit. Warning: standard mode difficulty significantly increased. Note: achievement of 100 genetic potential during tutorial unlocks. First evolution option. Logan's hands trembled slightly as he read the updated information. 1 essence per entry, but he could stay in the evolution world as long as needed. The system was like a passport. As long as he had essence, he could travel between worlds freely. But if someone stole his essence while he was in the evolution world, he'd be trapped there indefinitely. The implications were staggering. He took a deep breath of mountain air, tasting pine and earth, and the distant pollution of Seoul. Then, mentally selected, enter. The world twisted and Logan fell through reality, his stomach lurching as dimensions compressed and expanded around him. The sensation was more intense this time, as if the system was preparing him for something different, in something harder. Colors inverted, sounds stretched into impossible frequencies, and for a moment, Logan felt like he was being pulled apart and reassembled molecule by molecule. Then his feet hit ground and everything snapped into focus. Logan opened his eyes and immediately knew something was different. He stood in the same evolution world, the massive trees with bioluminescent bark, the purple sky with 3 moons, the electric taste of the air. But the interface had changed. The friendly blue glow had shifted to a harsher white light, and the information displayed was more clinical, less helpful. Final tutorial entry initiated current zone, transition forest creature classification. Common to uncommon rank, AI assistance, minimal, preparing for standard mode. Objective: achieve maximum genetic potential before tutorial ends. Time limit: 8 hours. The tutorial was teaching him to function without handholding, Logan realized. The creature indicators were still there but less detailed, just red dots on his minimap, without names or threat levels. The automatic absorption was still enabled, but the interface no longer suggested tactics or highlighted weak points. He was being weaned off the advantages, prepared for a world where the AI would only speak to confirm data and absorption, nothing more. Logan moved forward cautiously, his enhanced senses alert for threats. The forest here felt different from his. Previous entries, darker, denser, with sounds that suggested larger predators. Within minutes, he encountered his first creature, and his breath caught. It was similar to the horned rabbits he'd fought before, but larger, easily the size of a full-grown deer. Its crystalline horns were longer, sharper, and its silver fur sparked with what looked like electrical discharge. The interface finally provided minimal data. Uncommon rank, storm rabbit, threat level moderate. The creature spotted Logan and charged immediately, no hesitation, its body leaving trails of electricity in the purple grass. Logan dove sideways, his enhanced reflexes making the movement smooth, but he felt the heat of the electrical discharge as it passed. The storm rabbit wheeled around with frightening speed and charged again, and this time Logan was forced to roll behind one of the massive trees, his heart pounding. This was different from the tutorial's easy mode. This creature was faster, smarter, more dangerous. Logan looked around desperately for a weapon and spotted a broken branch, thick as a baseball bat but with a jagged end. He grabbed it and waited, counting heartbeats, listening to the storm rabbit's electrical crackling as it searched for him. When it rounded the tree, Logan was ready. He swung the branch with all his enhanced strength, aiming for the creature's head. The impact connected with a crack and a burst of electrical feedback that shot up Logan's arms, making his muscles seize. He screamed and dropped the branch, his hands smoking slightly. But the storm rabbit had also been stunned, staggering sideways with one of its horns cracked. Logan didn't give it time to recover. He grabbed a rock the size of his fist and brought it down on the creature's skull again and again, each impact sending fresh jolts of electricity through his body, but his enhanced constitution allowing him to push through the pain. Finally, the storm rabbit stopped moving, its electrical field flickering and dying, leaving only smoking fur and silver blood pooling on the ground. Logan collapsed next to the corpse, his hands shaking, his muscles twitching from the electrical damage. The interface pulsed. Genetic material detected. Absorb. Yes, no. Logan mentally selected yes and watched as the creature's body began to glow, dissolving into light. But this time the absorption felt different, more intense, more transformative. The storm rabbit's genes were higher quality than the common creatures he'd hunted before, and he could feel them integrating into his system with almost violent force. Genetic potential: 81-100 uncommon storm rabbit. Genes absorbed: moderate enhancement, electrical resistance, +15%, moderate enhancement, nervous system conductivity, +112%, moderate enhancement, reaction speed, +8%. Note: tutorial absorption differs from standard mode. Corpses will remain after completion. Logan lay on the purple grass, breathing hard, feeling his body adapt and change. His nervous system was rewiring itself, neurons firing faster, electrical signals transmitting with increased efficiency. When he finally stood, he felt different, sharper, quicker, like his body was operating at a higher frequency than before. He had 8 hours and needed 19 more genetic potential points. Logan gritted his teeth and moved deeper into the transition forest, hunting with growing desperation and determination. The next creature was a pack of 3 crystal-scaled lizards, each the size of a large dog, with tails that ended in blade-like protrusions. They coordinated their attacks, one distracting while the others flanked, and Logan took a deep slash across his ribs before he managed to kill the first one. The pain was incredible, blood soaking his shirt, but his enhanced constitution kept him moving. He used the first lizard's corpse as a shield, blocking the other's attacks while he grabbed one by the tail and slammed it against a tree with strength that surprised even him. The third lizard fled, but Logan had absorbed genes from 2 of the more's genetic potential. 87-100 an hour. Later, he encountered a bird creature with razor feathers and a wingspan of 4 meters. It attacked from above, diving with talons extended, and Logan barely managed to dodge. The fight became a deadly game of cat and mouse through the forest, Logan using the massive trees for cover while the bird circled and struck. He finally brought it down by timing a leap perfectly, grabbing its leg as it dove and using his weight to slam it to the ground. The bird's talons opened deep gashes in Logan's shoulder, but he managed to pin it long enough to break its neck. Genetic. Potential. 92-100. The wounds were serious now. Logan's shirt was more blood than fabric, his body aching from electrical burns, cuts, and impacts. But he was so close, just 8 more points, and the interface showed he still had 4 hours remaining. He pushed deeper into the forest, leaving a trail of silver and red blood behind him, his enhanced healing already working to close the worst of the wounds, but not fast enough. That's when he found the cave. It was hidden behind a waterfall of glowing liquid, not water exactly, but something that hummed with energy. The interface provided no information about it, the AI assistants now almost completely silent. Logan approached carefully, his instincts screaming danger, but also sensing opportunity. Inside the cave, the walls were covered in crystalline formations that pulsed with different colors: blues, greens, purples, reds, and in the center of the main chamber, sleeping on a bed of these crystals, was a creature that made everything Logan had fought before seem insignificant. It looked vaguely feline, about the size of a tiger, but its body was covered in armored plates that seemed to be made of the same crystal as the cave walls. Its tail was long and segmented, ending in a cluster of spikes, and even in sleep it radiated power. The interface finally spoke, but only to confirm what Logan already knew. Rare, rank, Crystal Panther. Threat level, extreme warning. Creature exceeds tutorial difficulty parameters. Recommended action. Retreat. Logan stared at the sleeping panther and did the math. 8 genetic potential points needed. The storm rabbit had given him 8 points alone. A rare rank creature would easily give him enough to hit 100, maybe even exceed it. But the risk was enormous. If this thing woke up before Logan could gain an advantage, he was dead. No amount of enhanced reflexes or electrical resistance would save him from a rare rank predator. But Logan thought about his father's note, about the job ending, about 15 years of being invisible and powerless. He thought about the timer, counting down on tutorial mode, about standard mode requiring portal essence, about entering the real evolution world at the bottom of the hierarchy versus entering it already evolved. He thought about Emma and Marcus and the thousands of people who would soon be competing for the same limited resources, the same hunting grounds, the same opportunities to grow stronger. Logan moved silently deeper into the cave, his enhanced senses mapping the space, looking for any advantage. The crystal formations on the walls weren't just decorative, they were sharp, some of them jutting out at angles that could serve as weapons or hazards. The chamber had multiple exits, narrow tunnels that the large panther probably couldn't follow through easily. And most importantly, Logan noticed that the creature was sleeping directly beneath a massive crystal stalactite, easily 2 meters long and tapered to a point, hanging from the cave's ceiling like a sword of Damocles. A plan formed in Logan's mind. Stupid, desperate, probably suicidal, but possible. He would need perfect timing, absolute commitment, and a lot of luck. Logan climbed the cave wall as silently as possible, his enhanced strength making the ascent manageable despite his injuries. The crystal formations provided handholds, though. Some of them cut his palms, adding fresh blood to the mix already soaking his clothes. He reached the ceiling and carefully positioned himself above the sleeping panther, next to the massive stalactite. Up close, he could see that it wasn't solidly attached. Time and the vibrations of the waterfall had weakened its connection to the ceiling. Logan wrapped his legs around the stalactite and began rocking it gently, testing its stability. It shifted slightly, and the panther's ear twitched, but it didn't wake. Logan increased the pressure, using his body weight and enhanced strength to work the crystal formation loose. His muscles screamed, his wounds reopened, and blood dripped, down onto the crystals below, each drop sounding impossibly loud in the cave's acoustics. The stalactite suddenly shifted more dramatically, and the panther's eyes snapped open, brilliant green with vertical pupils that immediately locked onto Logan's position. The creature roared, a sound that shook the entire cave, and began to rise. Logan didn't hesitate. He threw all his weight into one final desperate pull, and the stalactite broke free. Logan and 2 meters of razor-sharp crystal fell together, gravity and momentum combining into a deadly projectile. The panther tried to dodge, but it was too large, too close, and the stalactite caught it through the shoulder, pinning it to the cave floor with a sound like a gunshot. The creature shrieked, thrashing, its armored tail whipping wildly. One of the spikes caught Logan's leg as he fell, opening a gash from knee to ankle, and he hit the ground hard enough to see stars. But the panther was pinned, unable to fully rise. Its rare rank strength not enough to immediately free itself from 2 meters of crystal driven through its shoulder and into the stone below. Logan scrambled backward, his leg barely supporting his weight, and grabbed a smaller crystal formation that had broken free in the chaos. The panther's green eyes tracked him with pure hatred and intelligence that was almost human. Logan limped. Forward! The crystal shard held in both hands like a knife, and the panther's tail whipped at him again. He barely ducked under it, feeling the wind of its passage, then brought the shard down on the creature's neck, where the armor plating had gaps. The crystal punched through, and he stabbed again, and again, his enhanced strength driving the makeshift weapon deeper with each strike. The panther's struggles grew weaker, its roars turning to whimpers, and finally it went still. Logan collapsed next to the body, his entire body shaking, his vision swimming from blood loss. The interface pulsed urgently. Genetic material detected. Rare rank warning. Host condition. Critical recommendation. Immediate absorption for healing Logan. Mentally selected yes with the last of his concentration, and the tutorial's automatic absorption kicked in one final time. The genetic material flowed into him like liquid fire, burning through his system, rewriting his DNA at a fundamental level. He screamed as his wounds began to heal, as new muscle tissue formed, as his bones restructured and strengthened, as his entire body underwent rapid evolution. Genetic potential, 108/100 rare, crystal panther genes, absorbed major enhancement. Physical strength, plus 35%, major enhancement, armor development, plus 30%, major enhancement, predator instincts, plus 25%, special acquisition, beast soul, fragment, detected achievement, unlocked, tutorial completion at maximum potential, first evolution, now available. Warning. Standard mode transition, imminent. Logan lay on the crystal cave floor, gasping, his body glowing with absorbed genetic material, and a new interface window appeared that he'd never seen before. Beast Soul acquired, Crystal Panther, incomplete. Type, defensive-offensive hybrid ability, partial crystallization, temporarily. Hardened skin into crystal armor. Duration, 30 seconds. Cooldown, 10 minutes. Note, beast souls can be manifested in any realm. Note, beast souls can be traded only within evolution. World. Note, complete souls require multiple fragment acquisitions. Logan stared at the notification in wonder. The system had never mentioned beast souls before, but the ability was immediately clear. He could temporarily transform his skin into crystal armor like the panther's, giving him defensive capabilities far beyond his current level, and he could use it anywhere, even back on Earth. It was a trump card, an ace in the hole, something that could turn a losing fight into a victory. But the interface was already counting down. Tutorial completion in 10 seconds. Logan struggled. To his feet, his newly enhanced body feeling strange, powerful, dangerous. The panther's corpse lay where it had fallen. No magical dissolution in standard mode, just a dead creature that would need to be harvested and cooked for genetic benefits. He could feel the genetic potential thrumming under his skin, ready to be transformed into his first evolution. The countdown hit 0, and reality twisted. Logan didn't return to Earth. Instead, the cave around him dissolved and reformed into something else entirely. A massive stone plaza, surrounded by primitive buildings constructed from wood, and what looked like the same crystal formations from the Evolution World's caves. Dozens of people materialized around him, all of them looking as disoriented as Logan felt. All of them wearing earth clothes that were torn and bloody and completely out of place in this primitive setting. The interface updated with a cascade of new information. Tutorial complete standard evolution world accessed, first sanctuary realm. Current location, Shelter, Murrah 4782, South Korea regional assignment. Population, 1,847 residents shelter. Lord, Dante Kang shelter. Level, 2. Basic fortifications, limited resources. Portal essence required for Earth return, 1 unit, unlimited duration per visit. Current portal essence, 00 units. Warning, you cannot return to Earth until portal essence is acquired. Note, portal essence drops randomly from creature kills, approximately 10% chance. Note, Earth return portal will open at your departure location. Note, protect your portal essence. Theft will trap you indefinitely. Important. First sanctuary. Realm creatures cannot enter shelters. Evolution realms. First sanctuary. Current. Second. Sanctuary requires second evolution. Beyond, Logan's stomach dropped as the implications crashed over him. He'd entered the evolution world from Bukhansan Mountain, which meant, when he finally got portal essence and returned to Earth, he'd appear on that mountain. But more pressingly, he was trapped here until he acquired the essence, which meant hunting without the tutorial's automatic absorption, which meant cooking alien meat to extract genes, which meant surviving in this shelter with almost 2,000 other people, all of whom were probably just as desperate and dangerous as him. The Bitosh Plaza was chaos. People were shouting, crying, demanding answers that no one had. A girl who couldn't have been older than 14 was sobbing that she'd entered the tutorial on a dare and now couldn't get home. A businessman in a torn suit was screaming at his interface, trying to force it to explain what was happening. 2 young men were already fighting over something, their enhanced strength making their brawl destructive and violent. And standing on a raised platform at the far end of the plaza, watching the chaos with cold calculation, was a man who radiated empower. He was Korean, maybe 30 years old, with a lean, muscular build, and eyes that reflected light strangely, almost like an animal's. His clothes were primitive, leather and fur, weapons strapped to his belt, and his posture suggested someone who'd been here long enough to adapt, to evolve, to become something beyond human. Around his neck hung a crystalline medallion that pulsed with faint light, some kind of administrative symbol. The man raised his hand, and the air around him shimmered. When he spoke, his voice carried across the entire plaza with unnatural clarity. Welcome to Shelter 4782. My name is Dante Kang, and I am this shelter's lord. You will follow my rules, contribute to our defenses, and surrender 50% of all portal essence you acquire as tax for shelter protection and services. Refuse, and you will be expelled from the shelter's safety. The evolution world does not forgive weakness. Murmurs rippled through the crowd of new arrivals. Logan's enhanced senses picked up the fear and resentment in people's voices, but also the resignation. This Dante had clearly been here much longer than a few weeks. His entire bearing, his equipment, the established infrastructure around him suggested months of development, maybe even longer. The interface provided minimal information when Logan focused on Dante. User, Dante Kang Shelter Role, Lord, administrative privileges, active. Evolution stage, first evolution, complete, threat. Assessment, extreme first evolution, complete. The man had already undergone the transformation that Logan had just unlocked, which meant he was operating at a level far beyond even Logan's enhanced 100+ genetic potential. The shelter's other residents, Logan could see them now. Watching from the crude buildings, maybe 200 or 300 people in total, all looked hardened. Adapted to this world in ways the new arrivals weren't. Shelter assignments will be made by my lieutenants, Dante continued, gesturing to a group of 5 people standing near the platform, all of them looking nearly as dangerous as their leader. Food is earned through hunting contributions. Water is rationed. Violence within shelter limits is prohibited unless sanctioned. The Lord position can be challenged, but know that I have held it for 8 months and killed 17 challengers. Break these rules, and you die. Follow them, and you might survive long enough to evolve. 8 months. Logan's mind reeled. Dante had been one of the very first activated users, had entered when the phenomenon was still rare, had claimed this shelter and built his power